Honestly, listing out all the steps, it doesn't seem that complicated and it seemed very straightforward, but it took a lot of different generations and a lot of different tries and a lot of different regenerations to get like what I wanted, and that's okay. I mean, it just took a lot of time. Every single time I sit down to do something with AI, I think it's going to be like a 1-2 hour project, and then it ends up taking most of the day, which this project did. We've been talking a lot about Runway's Act 1, but can it actually be used to make something, or is it just good for tests? Let me show you. This is Real Intelligence, a podcast where we talk about all things film and AI. I also show you different tools and how you can use them. My name's Katya Alexander. I've been a producer for 10 years. I've sold films to a Bamarama and IFC. I've had movies on Hulu go trending. I've worked on the Las Vegas Sphere. It goes on and on and on. And I am so excited for my career. I am so proud of all that I've accomplished. And I want to use what I've accomplished to help my audience make films and do cool things. I want to mention that I'm starting a newsletter every single week that talks about all the AI news, some of which I hear firsthand from the person, and it might not be out there in the world yet. So make sure that you subscribe to that. The link for it is in the description of this video.
Real intelligence leading the way. AI insights, it's what you crave. Real intelligence, turn up the light. Stay informed all through the night.
You gonna be in it? Okay. I've had a series where I am making a short film using AI tools. And in this episode of that series, I'm going to use Runway's Act 1 to actually make a scene. I mentioned in a previous episode that I put a couple of scenes into the film that were just talking heads on a simple background because I wanted there to be at least something that was a little bit simple that we could get done in the movie. For this episode, those are the scenes I'm going to work on. There is one scene of our two main characters in a closet talking, and then we have another scene of the same two characters in a walk-in freezer also talking. But the emotional weight of both the scenes are extremely different. One of the scenes, their emotions are very, very subtle and all the movements are very subtle. And in the other scene, the emotions are much more extreme and the movements are much more extreme. So let's first start with the first scene. I've talked a lot about the process of being able to generate an image using Midjourney and then using that image through some other generative AI to actually make the video. So this process is going to be very similar and I'm going to walk you through that. I had to generate an image of Mia's coverage and I had to generate an image of Kyle's coverage, the two main characters. I have already decided what the Mia character is going to look like, and I already have a reference image of what her character will always look like. Same thing with Kyle. So the way I started was using a prompt to generate the image. I wanted to make sure that the style was consistent across all the other images I'm generating. So for the prompt, I used a lot of the same words. I used the hyper-realistic Kodak 400 shot on a medium format camera. And then even though I'm going to do a character replacement on the characters, I still made sure to describe the characters in the same way I've always been describing them. I have decided that Mia is 18 instead of 16, but because I have to use the same prompts, in the prompt it does say that Mia is 17. I used the same prompt. I described her with pink hair. I described her as high cheekbones and that she has a long gold ball gown. So it popped out an image and it wasn't exactly what I wanted. I had to regenerate the image a couple of times to even start getting close to what I wanted. When I finally got something close, I upscaled it and I zoomed out 2 times because I wanted the shot to be a little bit wider on her so that later when I'm editing, I could actually decide if it was going to be a close-up or a medium close-up and exactly how the shot was actually going to look. When I expanded it, it added a couple of things that I didn't really want it to add. I hit upscale and then I hit to edit a region. So I highlighted all the different sections that I didn't really like. These were the sections that made the room not really look like a dark closet. And then when I highlighted those, I updated the prompt to be an extremely dark closet. That gave me my location. So the Mia character in that image looked pretty similar to Mia, but it wasn't exactly like Mia yet. So I had to add a character reference of the initial image of Mia to make sure that her character is consistent throughout the entire movie. So when I had the image that I really liked, I hit upscale again, and this time I was going to vary a region. I highlighted all of Mia, and then I found the reference image of Mia. I put it in with --CREF, then the link, and then --CW, which meant creative weight. And I tried with 95. I didn't really like what it came up with 95, so I ended up doing creative weight 100, meaning she was going to look exactly as she looked in that image. I made sure to highlight all of her hair and her dress because I wanted it to update her outfit as well. I wanted her dress to also be just as consistent as her face and her hair. Honestly, listing out all the steps, it doesn't seem that complicated and it seemed very straightforward, but it took a lot of different generations and a lot of different tries and a lot of different regenerations to get like what I wanted, and that's okay. I mean, it just took a lot of time. Every single time I sit down to do something with AI, I think it's going to be like a 1-2 hour project, and then it ends up taking most of the day, which this project did. Once I had my image of Mia, I wanted to make sure that my image of Kyle was going to be in the same room because they're in the same closet talking to each other. So instead of regenerating a whole image from scratch, I actually did an upscale vary region again, this time also highlighting all of Mia. You really need to make sure that you highlight every little bit of the character, including if like there's a little bit of hair, because one of the times I missed a little tuft of her hair and it gave Kyle this very, very long, beautiful pink hair, but it wasn't what I was going for. So I ended up having to regenerate it, making sure to highlight everything. My cat's on my lap if you can hear him purring. So I did the vary region, and the part of the prompt that explains who Mia is, I deleted that, and this time I explained who Kyle was. I said that he's a young man with brown hair, he's wearing a tuxedo. And then I took my character reference of Kyle, I did --CREF with that link, and then --CW creative weight 100. It was able to generate the exact same location that Mia was in, but this time replaced with Kyle. I then downloaded that image and I did a horizontal flip so that it's almost like the camera is facing Mia and she's in this location, and the camera has flipped and we see Kyle in the same location, but of course everything would be on the opposite side. So that's kind of how I made it feel a little bit more lifelike. So once I had my two images, I was ready to put it into Runway's Act 1 and see what it could come up with. So one of the ways that I did this to make it a little bit easier was I started with all of Mia's lines. I read all of Mia's lines and I did all my motion capture for Mia's lines, and then I did Kyle's side of the conversation. It almost reminded me that when you're on set and you're getting takes and you're sort of getting all the takes of one person and then you flip the camera and you're getting all the takes of the other person. Here's one of the first things I noticed when I was doing all of Mia's coverage. So just to remind you, I did it to zoom out 2 times so that, you know, we could get sort of a full image of Mia and I could like punch in and punch out whenever I wanted to. But when I used Act 1's Runway, her arms are kind of like this and her head is like this. And because Runway only does her face, it looked really weird because her body was extremely still and her head is moving and stuff. And so when I got that footage, I was like, uh-oh, okay, I'm gonna have to play with this. I think they left. And I think I know where the office is. I think they left. And I think I know where the office is. I think they left. And I think I know where the office is. You don't understand. It's important to the world. I'm already wanted. I'm already wanted. The last house I cleaned, they say I stole jewelry. I didn't, but it doesn't matter. They don't believe me. I don't know if it was like the placement of Kyle or the shot that I got of him, but it didn't seem as extreme on Kyle's side as it did on Mia's side. Like, obviously he's also still, but it didn't feel that way. It kind of felt fine, like, as it was. I think it's too dangerous. We have to turn back. I do understand the movement's important to you. I know, but you're important to my world. What about your sisters? What? What about your sisters? Is that Vice President Cladwell? Is that Vice President Cladwell? Is that Vice President Cladwell? Once I had both of those clips, I then put it into editing software and I edited them together into a single scene. And to make Mia's footage look better and like less weird, I punched in a lot so that you can't really see that her body is completely still. And because it's like a shot reverse shot for the whole conversation, I had to punch in a little bit on Kyle as well. Even though his footage looked great, I still punched in so it wasn't as jarring when you're going between the two, but I didn't punch in as much for two reasons. One, I wanted to make his shot look a little bit different than Mia's shot, especially because I generated it with the same background. And two, his footage didn't look as weird as Mia's footage, so I felt like I could get away with not punching in as much on his side. Altogether, here is a scene I came up with. I haven't brought in voice actors yet to do the voice acting because that's going to happen at the end. So you're going to be enjoying my beautiful voice playing both of the roles. I think it's too dangerous. We have to turn back. You don't understand. I do understand the movement's important to you. It's important to the world. I know, but you're important to my world. What about your sisters? I'm already wanted. What? The last house I cleaned, they say I stole jewelry. I didn't, but it doesn't matter. They don't believe me. Is that Vice President Cladwell? I think they left. And I think I know where the office is. One of the things I was most surprised about was how it could really capture super subtle emotion. Like eyebrow raises or when they looked down or when they paused. And honestly, like some of the pauses I actually just like found in the footage because I was, waiting for the other person to speak when I was playing each role. So naturally there were pauses, and despite the fact that I didn't pre-plan it, I was able to use those clips to add a little bit more of like emotion and weight within the scene. So once I had this scene, I did another scene that I knew I was going to use the same process with, but the major difference between these two scenes are the emotional weight. In this scene, they're just talking and they have very, very subtle emotions. In this other scene, Mia is screaming, she's flailing, she thinks Kyle is going to kill her. The beginning process was exactly the same. I generated a shot of Mia on the proper background, and this time I did a zoom out of 1.5 instead of 2 because I feel like I probably just zoomed out too much for Runway to work really well. And then I did the character replacement of Mia. Once I had a shot that I really loved, I did the character replacement of Kyle. And so we had both sides of the scene, exact same thing. I did forget to horizontally flip Kyle when I made the image and I put it into Runway, but that was fine because I knew I could horizontally flip it in the editing software later. So I knew it like wasn't a make or break it thing. To get the emotion of Mia, I actually had to do a couple of takes. Some of the takes, like she looked completely deadpan, even though I'm like begging for help. Even the final take that I went with like wasn't perfect. So here's the take that didn't look very great. Let me go. Let me go. Oh my God. You're gonna kill me. Your idea was real. Your ID was real. That's why they let us in. This was your plan all along. You're just trying to stop us. And then here's the take that I ended up going with. You can see that it's like not perfect, but it'll work. Let me go. Let me go. You're gonna kill me. Your ID is real. That's why they let you in. Oh my God. This was your plan all along. You're trying to stop us. I don't believe you. Let me go. And then I did the other side with Kyle. Like I said, I hadn't horizontally flipped the image yet, so it looks exactly the same, which is like kind of funny to look at. Please, let me explain. No, Mia, I love you. Please stop screaming. Please. No, Mia, I want to help you. I want to bring my father down. Please. I love you. So funny because I had the same issue with Kyle that I did with Mia in the last scene, where he just was so still and his face was like so expressive that it just seemed so strange. So when I put both the clips in the editing software, I had to horizontally flip Kyle, and then I also had to punch in a little bit like I did on the last scene, which forced me to have to punch in a little bit on Mia's shot as well so that it wasn't as jarring. Let me go. Let me go. Please, let me explain. You're gonna kill me. No, Mia, I love you. Your ID is real. That's why they let you in. Please stop screaming. Please. Oh my God. This was your plan all along. You're trying to stop us. No, Mia, I want to help you. I want to bring my father down. I don't believe you. Please. I love you. Let me go. The thing that did surprise me about it in like a good sense was I really was flailing and moving my head a bunch in Mia's performance, and it was able to sort of capture that movement very well. I don't think it captures like terror very well. I have noticed with Runway that it captures subtle emotion actually way better than extreme emotion, which kind of surprised me. I thought it'd be the other way around. So that's something I'm gonna have to work with. I will admit, I don't find these scenes perfect. I do think I'm gonna have to go in and play with them a lot for me to be super happy with them. It sort of is like, okay, I could accept this. This could be a scene in a movie. Maybe with sound design and proper voices, it'll actually work. And I think I am going to start with that just to see if it does fix the scene before I go in and like try to do a bunch of tech stuff. But I guess my final thoughts about Runway's Act 1 is that it is amazing and it is game changing and it is the reason I can make this short film today, but it's not exactly perfect. So it didn't exactly live up to my expectation of it, which it probably shouldn't have. My expectation should have been way lower. I mean, AI still is in its early stages. It's not perfect, but it was good. Like, it's good enough. And especially with an AI film, like I tell people, when you're watching a movie that was made with AI, it's kind of like eating frozen yogurt. If you're expecting ice cream, you're going to be really disappointed. But if you're expecting frozen yogurt, you're going to have a delicious dessert. So I wanted to thank you for watching this video. As mentioned before, I have a newsletter that talks about all the AI news, a lot of it that I'm hearing firsthand, so you can be one step ahead of everybody else. The link to subscribe to that newsletter is in the description, as well as links to my TikTok and Instagram, where I post shorter content, but more tips and more tricks that you could be trying out. So I'm Katya Alexander, and this is Real Intelligence.